All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Let's Talk Tenkara podcast. I have got Amanda Hoffner with me, also known as Lady Tenkara Bum. Amanda, thank you so much for coming on with me this week.
Of course. I'm happy to be here. Happy to hang out and talk some Tenkara.
Yeah. So I guess let's start out pretty basic here. Amanda, how did you get started in Tenkara?
So I maybe people have read my whole Tenkara USA article or whatever, but as a brief synopsis, I loved fishing. I grew up fishing, spin fishing, and with worms and corn and whatnot. And I sort of got away from it, and then my brother passed away, and I wanted to get closer to nature. I wanted to start fishing again, and I never actually Western fly fished. I went right from spin fishing with like panther martins and jumped right over to Tenkara, and I haven't looked back since. That was a few years ago.
Okay, perfect. If you had to give me a time frame, about how long would you say you've been doing Tenkara?
Consistently, maybe 3 years.
Maybe 3 years? Okay,
Yeah.
so a little bit less time than me, but that's cool
Yeah.
that you've kind of blown up online, so it's really cool to see that. When you got into Tenkara, how long into that journey would you say you felt like you finally had it figured out?
I don't have it figured out. I hope that I never have it truly figured out, honestly, because I wanna keep growing. I want to keep learning. I consider Tenkara an art. I'm a full-time nerd, so I feel that nursing is an art, and I feel Tenkara is an art, and I wanna just keep exploring different forms of fixed line fishing, Tenkara, whatever. So
I love it.
took me a while though.
I agree. There's never a point, at least for me, I've been doing this for about 4.5 years, and I don't feel like I truly have it figured out completely. And like you said, I hope I don't ever. There's always more to learn. And as long as you keep that open mindset, you'll keep learning, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in your experience, what are 3 things that you've learned over your about 3 years that you wish you knew when you started?
I wish I knew in the beginning that I didn't need to change my fly so much. Like right now, I fish if I could fish one fly, it would be my Sakasa, my dark-bodied, dark hackle, soft hackle Kabari.
Okay.
And that would be fine with me. So I wish that I realized I didn't have to keep switching my fly every 5 seconds. Another thing is, I guess, also along the lines of materials, like not having to feel like you have to have everything that you see. Like I went on a buying spree because you're like, woo, all these like goodies and stuff. You're like, I don't know. I just felt like I need to buy everything. And now I'm such a minimalist, and I only have like one fly box, one spool for my line, and one thing of tippet, and that's one thing. You don't have to go crazy.
No, for sure. That's something I tell people all the time is it's like, you don't realize when I go by myself, I have a chest pack now that I use, but it's because I have like 3 fly boxes that I carry. But when I started, it was one fly box, a spool of level line, tippet, and a net, and I just threw everything in my pockets and went.
Yeah.
And like people dive into it, like you said, they buy all this stuff right at the beginning, and then you get into it, and you're like, why did I buy all of this?
Yeah. You're like, oh, I didn't need that. I don't need all that. Whatever.
Right, so far, we're not changing our flies often. We're not buying all the gear that we have bought because both of us made that mistake eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. And once you're in it, you're like, ooh, all this stuff, everything's so pretty with Tenkara. Right down from the rod to what you're wearing. Whatever.
Right, so what would be a third thing?
One more thing. Just to enjoy the moment. I love catching a fish. You're on the West Coast, right?
I am, yeah. I'm in Utah.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have a lot of, I'm not sure, I've never fished in Utah, but I have a lot of, like, chubs and shiners and random native fish that are endemic to this area, especially down here in South Carolina. But no, like knowing that it's okay not to catch a trout. It's okay to catch a game fish or
Yeah.
after the elusive brook trout, that's native out here. But I still am. But no, just knowing that, just being in nature, enjoying the water, enjoying the land.
Absolutely. I agree with that. When I started, I was focused so much on having everything perfect. And it was probably, I didn't catch a fish for my first 3 trips
Sure.
out. And finally I sat back because I did come from Western fly fishing. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I catch fish doing that. I was trying to figure it out. And what I figured out in doing so was I was being too nitpicky about every detail and I wasn't truly enjoying it.
Yeah.
I definitely can understand your opinion on that. My next question you kind of got into a little bit, and it's if you could only fish one fly for the rest of your life, which would it be and why? You mentioned that dark body, dark hackle kabari. Is that what you would choose?
Yeah, because like even growing up, like bugs are black, right? Bugs are dark. They have dark wings, whatever. I rarely ever go beyond the hook, the thread, or whatever, and the hackle. Like I usually, unless it's a nymph, and then
Right.
whatever. But I try and keep everything as simple as possible. I want to be able to tie a fly in under 2 minutes. I want to be able to catch a fish in under 2 minutes. Whatever. So that's really important to me to keep it simple. I don't change even now in my like practice of Tenkara, I don't change my fly that often at all. If I don't catch a fish like in that stream behind you and your beautiful stream behind you in your background there, like I don't spend too long in a hole because I feel as if I probably spooked the fish by now, and no other fly's gonna work anyway, So I just keep going. Fish are opportunity for I fish.
I read something a while back, and it was if you're nitpicking your fly, you're nitpicking the wrong thing because there's about 1,000 things that we could be doing wrong.
Sure.
Before the fly is the issue.
Exactly.
Especially like you said, like the stream behind me, these little mountain streams and stuff. When you get into them, the fish aren't picky.
Oh yeah. No.
I mean, you get into these secluded streams and stuff. Obviously, some of the places I guide are a little bit different. They're higher pressure.
Sure.
But you get into these smaller streams and the fish are like the water's moving, they're eating or they're starving.
Right. They're putting things in their mouth and they're spitting out the rocks that are floating by. Like they don't care.
Exactly. No, that's really good. I feel like sometimes I get away from just fishing a simple fly. And when I started, that was really what I started with. I started with just your kabari flies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, let's throw on a blowtorch. Let's throw on all these different things. And it's like they work, but like you said, sometimes it's better just to keep it simple.
Yeah.
That's
what would be my fly. That was one of the first flies after like the killer bug that I learned to tie with feathers.
I still don't tie the killer bug, even though it's like it was made in Utah. It's called the Utah killer bug.
Why are you not tying?
That is a great question, and I was talking about it at this expo I did this last week, and I don't know the answer to that.
Well, then you have to do it. Have you ever fished one?
I have fished one, and
all right.
I'm actually out of them right now because the last trip I went on with a client, they broke off the last one I had.
Oh.
And so yeah. I need to tie them. I need to get the yarn to tie it and just especially like you said, they're easy to tie. There's nothing to them.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to the time that you've spent in Tenkara, what would you say is your most memorable experience?
Most memorable experience. Wow. So I started travel nursing as my career. I've been a nurse for a while, but I started travel nursing, so I've had the opportunity to go to some pretty crazy places. By crazy, I mean just the West Coast. I fished up and
Pretty
down.
wild out here.
I know. I haven't been to Utah, though. I got to get out there. But I fished from Maine to Georgia for brook trout, but probably my most memorable experience was fishing the Sierras. I actually flew into, what is that, Sacramento?
Okay.
Top of the Sierras.
I believe so. I don't spend a lot of time over that way.
One of those S names in California, and I went down the Western Sierras, and then I swooped down, and I fished all along the mountain ranges there, and it's pretty epic. Caught some golden trout, caught some Lahontan cutthroat. That was pretty stellar. Like, I took a week off and just camped and fished.
Well, you've got 2 on your list that I haven't got yet, and I've got the golden trout in Utah, and I haven't got it yet. So got to get that one figured out.
Yeah, let's go. We can go fishing. Hopefully I get out there soon.
That'd be awesome. Hit me up when you do, because I definitely always looking for people to fish with. All right. So what advice would you give someone that's just getting started? I know we talked a little bit about like not getting big eyes with everything you see and buying every little thing. But what advice would you give someone?
That starts Tenkara?
Correct.
Make it your own, because everyone is from a different place. Tenkara originally, is from Japan, yada yada, commercial fishing. Everyone knows that. And I think what's really important is here in America, Tenkara is seen as the overall fixed line fishing. I personally think I do more, Tenkara, because I do like to fish it on mountain streams with a gradient with my single weightless kabari. But to me, it doesn't matter. Make Tenkara your own, Don't
Absolutely.
search for how they fish. I don't care how you fish. Just don't be rude to the fish, I don't know. Make it your own. Keep it simple. Don't go nuts with things. It's literally supposed to be just you, the rod, and the line, and the fly. And to me, it brings me closer to the fish, and that's what I hope it brings other people when they start.
I love that. And I love how you mentioned that it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
So often that Tenkara is a journey. It's not just a way that you fish. And I truly believe that you're learning different things for every person. And I mean, I go fishing with people all the time that have been Tenkara fishing for some of them less time than I have, and I still learn from every person because everyone's journey is different.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Tenkara in Pennsylvania. You mentioned that's where your roots are.
Yeah, I'm from the Poconos.
So when you're fishing in Pennsylvania, are you mainly fishing smaller streams or bigger rivers, mountainous, urban? Like what's a typical trip look like for you?
So I grew up on the eastern side of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's long side, like longitudinal, right? So I grew up on the east side, north of Philly, like an hour and a half north of Philly. And so the big river that I would consider a river is the Delaware. And then we had the Lehigh River as well. But the tributaries that run into them are very small. They run off of the Appalachia or on the other side, like on Jersey. That mountain range too. I don't know what that mountain range is. Doesn't matter. I grew up on the Pennsylvania side that would flow into the Delaware, and that's where our brook trout were. I was usually fishing very small streams. Now, I grew up fishing stocked streams, but ever since after college, mid-20s, I'm in my mid-30s now, I've been fishing mostly small mountain streams.
Okay. Perfect. So
it's not, I mean, our mountains are like 2,500, feet.
They're foothills to us out here.
Yeah. We got these old grandfather mountains, the Appalachia.
I don't know if you had the opportunity to check out episode 1 of the podcast, but the mountain range that's in the background of the actual video that's on YouTube and Spotify, that's right outside my office that I work at.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, everyone that street tests me, they're like, is that like really what you look at? And I'm like, yeah, that's my daily view.
That's incredible.
It's beautiful country, and like you said, it's different than you. Like every state is unique in its own way. And I love it. So when most people think of Tenkara, they think about trout. What species are you targeting in Pennsylvania? I know trout's a big one out there.
Yeah, I mean I live in South Carolina now just because of my travel nursing, but Pennsylvania, known for brook trout. Brook trout is the state fish. I think it's the state fish of most of northeastern United States. I know it is Maine and I think Massachusetts too. But yeah, brook trout was my main.
Okay.
But yeah.
So as far as I know, some of the other species in that area, like steelhead, things like that, have you had the opportunity to target those on Tenkara?
So steelhead is more like towards Erie and stuff. I personally have not, but I know that some fixed line fishing companies and like Tenkara companies, like Wasatch, we were talking about that. I know that Rodzilla can handle some big boys.
What's crazy, speaking of them, they've got a rod. It's what I recommend to people is like a good starter rod. It's called the Middle Fork. It's 9 foot, 10 foot 6, and 12 foot. And there's a guy in Pennsylvania. His name's Derek. I'm sure you've seen him post some pictures on Facebook.
Yeah, I sent him some stuff. We've traded flies and.
Okay, yeah. So he catches steelhead on the most ridiculous rods.
Well, yeah, he caught like a muskie. Like he caught a muskie on it.
Caught a muskie on Rodzilla. He's catching. I don't know how familiar you are with Wasatch Tenkara rods, but on that starter rod I recommend for people, he's catching steelhead on that. He caught a 12-pound steelhead on that rod. You know what their sharpshooter is? Or
yeah, I have 3 rods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on their sharpshooter, he caught a steelhead on that.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, it's just like holy crap! Like
he's such a fisher though, and that's why I tell people like when they start fishing Tenkara and fixed line, they're like, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm like, if you're an angler, it will come naturally to you. Like casting will be fine. The flies you're using, you can use the same, flies for it doesn't matter. Just go out and catch a fish. It's different because there's no, reel. What do you do?
Oh, absolutely. It's a learning experience, and that's what drew me to it personally.
Yeah. Do you target that out there in Utah?
So I don't have anything like we target trout or carp and stuff. Trout's my main one, but it just depends. I mean, I've got so many little mountain streams that are 5 minutes from my apartment that it's not.
Like right now, I'm a flatlander. I have to drive like an hour west, an hour and a half west to get anything remotely mountainous. So.
Yeah, I've just got so many trout opportunities nearby. This year, I'm going after white bass.
Oh.
Wiper, which is a cross between a white bass and a striped bass.
What was it called? A wiper?
Yeah, a wiper.
Oh, that's
W-I-P-E-R.
The wiper.
I'm also going to try for a northern pike when they start spawning here in a little bit.
I would go after. I've never done it with Tenkara, but when I was spin fishing and stuff and bait fishing, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about muskie a little bit. Like, we don't have muskie running rivers here, unfortunately. But I targeted tiger muskie a while back, which, muskie and northern pike together. And I didn't do it on the Tenkara rod, unfortunately. I did get one on my spinning rod after 5 months almost of targeting them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, my goal this year is northern pike, white bass, and a wiper.
That's why.
Like non-typical that I'm targeting. As far as fishing, we already talked about how different states are different experiences or different species and things like that. As far as fishing seasons from state to state, is there like a typical time of year that you're angling in Pennsylvania, or is it a state that you can fish year round? What are we looking at?
Yeah, it's open year round. The wild, the Class A streams, I guess, as I know different states are classing different. The Class A streams you can fish year round. They have the stocking, like I think April, I forget the first week in April. They used to have 2 different ones for like northern Pennsylvania and southern Pennsylvania. They used to stagger them, the start dates. But I like to fish in the spring, and only actually when I started doing Tenkara did I start fishing in the fall and the winter. I hate the cold. I think it's I don't have I didn't have waders until like a year ago. I got them on like a Black Friday deal. I wet wade. If I could, I would wet wade all the time.
Same.
Living in the South, like I've been able to do it in January because it's not humid yet or in January, but it's hot enough.
Right.
But I started wading in the winter with Tenkara, but I prefer the spring. Spring's my favorite season in life and in fishing.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you there. I started Tenkara fishing in, I want to say late July.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, we're going up on almost 5 years now. Holy cow. But when I started, we were going into that fall, and things were cooling down a little bit, and then winter hit and things got more difficult.
Yeah, maybe that's why I didn't catch them right away because it's like almost fall,
Yeah, it's true. It was a little bit harder. I mean, there's so much that goes into your ideal fishing situation, whether it's, like, do you have cover that you can hide behind, or are you out in the open? There's just so much that goes into it. And late fall and things like that, it's like, hey, there's nothing to hide behind. You've got to.
So are your trout spawning in the fall, or do they usually?
We've got a little bit of both. Like our browns are normally fall. Rainbows are I believe, early spring.
Right.
So it just depends on which type of trout we've got. I don't even know how many different types of trout there.
We have the brook trout, and it's not even a trout; it's a char. So
Yeah,
we're
I mean, brown trout's the same way, right? But yeah, we've got rainbow brown trout, brook trout, cutthroats, and we've got 3 different subspecies of cutthroat.
Yeah, I didn't even realize how many there were.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Until like a year ago. I'm in my mid-30s. I had no idea. That's cool, though.
Yeah, and it opens you up to so many different opportunities because every fish is in a little bit different environment, right?
That's true. That's true, too. Absolutely.
So, are there certain techniques that you're using in fishing in Pennsylvania that you haven't seen used everywhere else?
So fishing from the West Coast and the East Coast, like growing up in Pennsylvania, it's really tight. So like have you heard of the Appalachian Trail, the trail, AT? They call it the Green Tunnel because you're walking, it's literally a tunnel of just rhododendron and trees and foliage everywhere. And it's really tight, even compared to when I was fishing for the golden trout out in the West. It's tight, but it's not. It's just so different. Like you're fishing meadows too, and it's wide open and flat. And even though you're thousands of feet in the air, 10,000 feet up or whatever, I feel like it's really tight there compared to the West. Even down here, like when I'm fishing these warm water streams for like the sunnies and stuff like that, it's so different than anywhere.
Sure.
All up and down the whole AT, it's the same, I'd say, like all the way down to the Smokies.
Yeah, perfect. So it sounds like as far as techniques, it's going to be pretty standard, just like little, like tight areas, right? So lots of bow and arrow casting, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've gotten pretty good at. I use a Tanuki headwater rod. It's 7'10", like under 2 ounces. But I've gotten pretty good at trying to avoid the bow and arrow cast when I can. I obviously will use when I have to. But I've gotten to the point where if a fish is hiding somewhere where I know I can't hook set well enough, good for them. I'm going to keep walking. I'm already 2 miles in. Like there's many more miles of stream to look at. And
Absolutely.
Most of my fishing trips, I will call them, are day trips. So I'll get there, when the sun rises, and I'll fish until I know I have to walk back. I have to save enough daylight to walk back to my car. But yeah, I like to get as much stream as I can, more than bow and arrow casting, if that makes sense.
100%. That makes a lot of sense. What does an ideal trip look like in Pennsylvania?
Ideal trip. If I'm thinking of my favorite stream in Pennsylvania. It would be in the spring. It would be a nice 50, 60 degree weather day. I'll wade in that. That's fine. No rain. No clouds. And just catching some wild trout. Brown trout, brook trout. That's my favorite. I don't know. Just a nice fair weather day. All on my Sakasa. That's all I could ever wish for. In every hole that I think there should be a fish, catching fish in every hole.
Well, if
That's
you're
my ideal day.
like me, you think there should be fish in every inch of the river. So
Everywhere. There should be a fish in that ditch over there.
absolutely. So that's kind of what your ideal trip looks like. What does an average trip look like?
An average trip? Like, for instance, I forget who I was talking to, but we were talking about getting skunked. And again, with there being even the non-game fish, they're everywhere, the chubs, and it's also a sign of a healthy creek. So that's probably more ideal. Not ideal. It's more, what was the word you used? Average. Catching a lot of suckers, a lot of chubs. You're like, oh, wish it was a trout, but they're just as aggressive, and whatever. But even going to like the Little Lehigh or something, a tributary off the Lehigh River, catching chubs, that's pretty ideal. Like, especially in the spots that are stocked, especially if they've already been outfished. A lot of people fish in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, I didn't know if you know this, has the most, second to Alaska, so most in like the continental U.S. Fishable, the most waterways,
Okay.
rivers and creeks and miles and miles and miles.
I did not know that. So
yes, it's my favorite state. It's my home state. Ask Derek; he knows.
yeah, no, I believe it 100%. It's crazy, especially like you look at. I grew up in Idaho. I live in Utah now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And there's so much water that you look at that it's like, I bet you there's fish in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, just be in Utah here where I live, just south of Salt Lake, up to Ogden, where we mentioned Wasatch a couple times now, where
Mm-hmm.
they're located. There's 26 streams between here and there. It's less than 30 miles. And almost all of them have fish in them.
Yeah. I mean, they all do.
True, they probably all do, but you can catch fish in almost all of them. We'll say that. And then I know we talked a little bit about like rod lineups and things like that, or different rods. What does your rod lineup look like?
I probably have over 30 rods right now. I was one of those, like, you gotta try it. You can't go into a fly shop, right, and try a whole bunch of different Tenkara rods. You just can't do that. They don't know how to sell rods because they don't fish Tenkara, and it's okay. It is what it is. And I know more and more fly shops are getting them, but, so I was buying them off of eBay. I was buying them on Facebook Marketplace. I just wanted to try them, right? I just wanted to see what was all the rage about this Tenkara USA rod or whatever. So I pretty much, I have a lot of rods that I've like have been selling and using and testing just to test drive, right? Because you don't know until you use it, right? If you can say that that's a soft rod, or this flex is this, or this many pennies, I don't care. I want it in my hand. I want to go fish, whatever. But you mean the lineup that I take out on the stream?
Yes. Like, what rods are you fishing regularly?
I am a huge Tanuki fan. So I usually have my headwater rod, which is a really short rod, under 2 ounces. And that literally it telescopes down to 13 inches. So I keep it in my car at all times. And then I have my absolute favorite rod by Tanuki is a 350. And the reason why I use American Tenkara rods is just easier to replace the parts. Like, I know a Japanese rod. Hell yeah, they're good. I'm sorry, I'm swearing. I would swear.
You're fine.
Would I use a Japanese rod? JDM, of course. Like, they're creme de la creme. But It's just easier to get American parts and customer service and all that. So my Tanuki rods are my go-to. My 350 Ninja is my favorite. It's the most balanced. I can switch between a 3.8 millimeter bead head and switch on my Sakasa the next cast, and it feels like nothing has changed, and the cast is just smooth for me. So if I take 2 rods, it's usually those 2.
Okay. I like it. I'm very similar, and I have my short rod and my long rod that I carry with me. I mean, and I've always, like you mentioned, you always have a rod in your car. I've always got 2 rods. You know, you never know when somewhere's gonna be like, I bet you there's fish right there, and I've got 10 minutes.
Yep. Oh, there's like a waterway right here. There's a greenway. I'm gonna stop over.
I've actually got a little canal by my office I need to try this summer, so we'll see how that goes.
You haven't tried it?
I haven't, but that's just because I get busy. I've got
tried a Utah killer bug. You haven't fished that stream.
fair. But no, I've got 2 kids at home, so like it's go to work, go home.
I gotcha.
Yeah. And then let me see where we were at here. I lost my spot.
Sorry. We got all the fishing ditches.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's always a good time, right?
Yeah.
When selecting your flies, I know we've talked about flies a couple times. Are you more match the hatch, or are you just fishing what's working?
Oh yeah, no match the hatch. No. I love to be able to be like, that's a mayfly. That's a I don't even know. Like, of course, I want to sound smart and cool and whatever, but again, where I'm fishing, the fish are opportunistic. They are hungry. They're gonna eat. As long as I don't spook them, they're gonna eat my fly. So what I usually do when I approach an area, if it's not winter, I'm usually nymphing in the winter. But if it's not winter, I'm usually starting on the surface with a soft cast, not creating much surface tension, not too much of a craziness if they're already looking up. But then I'll start slapping, and then sometimes I'll let it drift further. And I don't keep my fly in the water too long. Especially if the stream's really flowing fast, I don't have enough time anyway. It's just a small area.
Right.
3 seconds, maybe 5 seconds. So yeah, I don't match the hatch. The same freaking fly every time. Like if you look at my fly box, it's all really dark flies because I'm boring.
I definitely have a little bit more variety in mine, but I mean different situations, right? So
For sure.
Like some of the places I guide, you've got to be able to be more specific because those fish see.
Yeah, but see, like you're an expert for that area or that stream or that section of the river, and no, that's awesome. That's really cool.
With that being said, if you don't have a blowtorch in your box, you need to get some.
Second time you mentioned a blowtorch.
I actually normally I'm wearing a hat and I've got a blowtorch pinned in the front of my hat.
You just hand it off.
I do sometimes. It's like, oh, you don't have one of these? Well, this is what's working.
Every time.
Yeah. And it really is one of those flies where I don't know what it's supposed to resemble because have you seen a blowtorch?
I'm not going to lie. I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
So blowtorch it's a nymph. It's a beadhead nymph.
Okay.
And it's got like a soft hackle at the front and then generally, what's the word I'm talking about? You're thinking of.
I'm putting you on the spot now.
I know. And this is one that I don't tie because I can buy them cheaper than I can buy the stuff to tie.
Oh.
But chenille. No.
Oh yeah, or however. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Chanel.
It's got a different material for the body of it that builds it up just a little bit so it tapers back towards the barb.
Yeah.
And then it's got a little orange tail that sticks off of it, like bright fluorescent.
Torch.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
And for whatever reason, if I'm not catching fish and I throw one of those on, it works.
Isn't that the worst? Because you're like, I was just matching the hatch.
I mean, there are so many times that that's the case, and it's just like, well, I'm trying to, match the hatch, be productive, and then like there are some rivers like the Provo River. I don't have a ton of luck on the blowtorch, but like the Weber River, the Ogden River, like it doesn't matter. I always catch fish on the blowtorch.
Right, exactly.
Like, oh well, I haven't caught anything today. I'm gonna throw a blowtorch on, and then you catch 3 fish in 10 minutes, and it's a great day all of a sudden. All right, so definitely get some of those.
Let me make a list.
Yeah, now that we keep going off on little rants here, but
Blowtorch rants.
yeah, gotta love them. If someone's looking to plan a trip in Pennsylvania, what should they know beforehand?
Bring a short rod. Hone in on your casting skills, because if you're not casting, yeah, you can bow and arrow cast, but a bow and arrow cast can only be so much fun for so long, right?
Yep.
So hone in on casting. That's really important. I'm huge on like fly first presentation, right? That's the whole point of Tenkara, is keeping your line off the water, blah, 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 not scaring the fish. So honing in on casting skills is important just because of the tight cover. But other than that, Pennsylvania has a lot of water to fish, so you can go
in the U.S. for those of you that missed it.
Yeah, I mean they stock a lot too. I mean, like a lot of stocking. So there's literally fish everywhere.
Good deal. Is there anything that we haven't talked about or that I haven't asked you that you feel like I should have?
You should have asked. No, I think we covered a lot. Like we went over everything from lines. Oh, we didn't talk about lines.
We didn't. Furled line or level line?
So I started on furled because it's heavier and I felt like it was easier to cast. I still have furled with me, and I'm not one of those line snobs that only fishes 2 number whatever. It's honestly whatever I pull out first from my pack. But I have gravitated towards trying new stuff to see if I like it better. And if I don't, I just don't use it. But I've started using a tapered nylon line and a level line. So I'm like testing the waters there. But truly, it really is whatever I pick out first.
Okay.
And I have to drive an hour and a half west to fish. So I want to fish what I like to fish. I don't have time to experiment. I want to go catch fish. So
right.
Like for the most part, I don't use furled as much as I used to, just because my loops are tighter and I feel like I'm knotting the line up more. So other than that, yeah, not furled as much, but I do whenever I pull it out. So.
Yeah, no, I definitely will fish a furled line every now and then. I'm mostly level line.
Okay.
For me, a furled line, if it's windy, that extra weight is my go-to.
100%.
Other than that, though, I just 3.5 level line.
Yeah. So what length are you usually fishing broadwise?
So it varies. Like my big 3 rods, I would say. Again, I work really close with Wasatch Tenkara rods because they're nearby.
Yeah.
So I fish the sharpshooter, the middle fork, and the T-hunter a lot. Primarily with the sharpshooter, I'm running my line about 7 feet, so a little bit longer than the shortest length on the rod. And then 1.5 to 2 foot of tippet, depending on where I'm fishing. I'd say pretty standard for me is about 6 inches to 10 inches longer than my rod for my level line.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And the biggest reason I do that is I fish my rods in their middle length a lot.
Oh, gotcha.
And so having just that little bit of extra line when I lengthen my rod is really nice.
Let me ask you this too. Do you keep your level line, like do you buy like a spool of it?
I do.
And you cut your own? See, and that, because you Western fly, I don't know like too many knots. Like so like I have line already like with a tippet ring and the loop on the end so that I can hook it right to the Lillian, because like I get all messed up.
I've got a knot I can show you when we're finished that will change your life with level line.
Oh, really?
You can use it for attaching your level line onto your Lillian, as well as I use it to tie on my flies too, because it's really fast and it's efficient.
No, that's awesome.
So I'll show you that afterwards. Remind me. For those of you listening or watching the video, I will post a video. It's coming probably next week on the YouTube page and on my Instagram on how to tie that knot as well.
Sweet.
But yeah, no, that knot, I learned it literally last week, and it's like, holy crap! Like, where's this been?
Oh, that's cool. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So outside of everything we've talked about, we've got into lines, rods, flies. Is there anything else that you feel like is important?
Just go and have fun. Fish Tenkara your way. That's
I
what's
love it.
Yeah.
All right, Amanda, where can people connect with you and follow your journey?
So I'm mostly on Instagram, but I cross post onto Facebook, Lady Tenkara Bomb. I'm Amanda Hoffner, but if you follow Lady Tenkara Bomb, it'll be easier because I don't post everything on like my own social media, like my personal page. But I'm really bad at it. I have a ladytenkarabomb.com, and my Etsy shop is reopened, but with minimal flies in it right now because I need to tie for myself.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I have an Etsy shop that's done pretty well, and my Instagram is where I'm most active.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Let's Talk Tenkara, the first episode in the 50 States of Tenkara series. In this episode, we spoke with Amanda Hoffner about fishing in Pennsylvania and her Tenkara experience. If you have any questions for myself, feel free to reach out at letstalktenkara@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram at letstalktenkara. If you have any questions for Amanda, feel free to reach out to her at Lady Tenkara Bum on Instagram. Thank you again, and we look forward to having you on for the next episode. This has been the Let's Talk Tenkara podcast, hosted by Brenden Harden. Special guest, Amanda Hoffner. You can reach out to us with any questions or recommendations for the next episode at letstalktenkara@gmail.com or on Instagram at letstalktenkara. Find Amanda online on Instagram at Lady Tenkara Bum, or head over to her website at ladytenkarabum.com. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time, and let's talk Tenkara, a Salt Lake Tenkara production.